Your salary is corroding you. It sounds harsh, maybe even absurd. How can the very thing you work for, the money that's supposed to sustain you, actually be harming you? But stick with me for a moment. This isn't just a metaphor. It's rooted in a history most of us have completely forgotten, and it reveals something deeply unsettling about our modern relationship with work and money. It started when I stumbled upon the origin of the word salary. It comes from the Latin word salarium, and salarium referred to the payment given to Roman soldiers, often partly or wholly in the form of salt. Salt, that common stuff on our tables? Back then, salt wasn't just a seasoning, it was incredibly valuable. Why? Because it was one of the primary ways to preserve food, especially meat. In a world without refrigeration, salt meant survival. It meant armies could march longer distances, that communities could store food through lean times. It was, quite literally, a life-preserving substance. So, when soldiers were paid their salarium, they weren't just getting compensated. They were receiving a crucial tool for their own sustenance and stability. The payment itself embodied the idea of preservation. That connection lodged itself in my head. Salt preserves. Salary, derived from salt, should therefore, in its essence, preserve us. It should preserve our ability to live, to meet our needs, to maintain a certain quality of life, to secure our future. It's supposed to be the modern equivalent of that ancient salt, the resource we earn that allows us to keep ourselves and our families going, to keep things from spoiling. Metaphorically speaking, it should shield us from the decay caused by rising costs, unexpected emergencies, the simple passage of time eroding our savings. This is the fundamental, albeit forgotten, promise embedded in the very word salary. But here's where the strange relationship, the corrosion, begins. Think about what happens when something essential fundamentally fails at its purpose, or worse, starts doing the opposite. What happens when the thing meant to preserve actually starts to break things down? Consider salt again. While vital in the right amounts for preservation in life, too much salt can ruin food, make water undrinkable, corrode metal, and damage soil. It can become destructive. And that's the uncomfortable truth I started seeing about modern salaries, especially when they are insufficient. When your salary doesn't keep pace with the actual cost of living, when it barely covers the basics, let alone allows for saving or dealing with the unexpected, it stops being a preservative agent. It inverts its function. Instead of preserving your life and stability, an inadequate salary begins to corrode it. How? It corrodes your peace of mind through constant financial stress. It eats away at your savings. If you even manage to have any, it forces you into debt, which acts like rust, slowly weakening your financial structure. It corrodes your health, both physical and mental, through the pressure of making ends meet, perhaps forcing you to skip preventative care or rely on cheaper, less healthy food. It corrodes your time, forcing you to work longer hours or multiple jobs, leaving little room for rest, family, or personal growth. It corrodes your future, making it harder to invest in education, save for retirement, or provide opportunities for your children. The very mechanism designed, historically, to ensure stability becomes the source of instability and decay. It's a slow, grinding process. This corrosion, it's not usually a sudden collapse, but a gradual wearing down. You find yourself cutting back, making compromises, feeling perpetually behind. That feeling isn't just being broke. It's the sensation of your foundation being eaten away by the very things supposed to reinforce it. Now, recognizing this isn't just about feeling bad or angry. There's a practical insight here, something we can apply. When you understand that a chronically low salary isn't just not enough, but is actively damaging your life structure, it changes how you might approach your career and finances. It reframes the struggle. It's not just about seeking more. It's about stopping the harm. This perspective can be a powerful motivator. It might mean reassessing the true cost of staying in a low-paying job versus the difficulty of finding a new one. It might mean negotiating harder for raises, not just as a desire, but as a necessity to halt the corrosive effect. It could influence budgeting decisions, seeing them not just as spending plans, but as defense mechanisms against this erosion. It puts the need for a living wage, a wage that truly preserves, into a much starker, more urgent light. This isn't happening in a vacuum. Of course, we live in economic systems where wages have stagnated for many, while the costs of housing, healthcare, education, the value generated by labor doesn't always translate into a salary that reflects that value or preserves the laborer's well-being. There's often a disconnect, a power imbalance, that allows this corrosion to happen on a massive scale. It's easy to internalize financial struggles, to feel like it's a personal failing. But seeing the historical root of salary and its intended function of preservation highlights that when it fails to do so, it might be the system or the compensation structure that is failing, not just the individual. And here's another point to consider in our lives. Understanding this systemic corrosion can actually be somewhat liberating. Paradoxically, it helps shift the narrative away from pure self-blame. If the tool meant to preserve you is inherently flawed or insufficient in the current environment, then the struggle isn't solely because you didn't budget well enough or work hard enough. It means you're fighting against a current that's actively working against your stability. This understanding doesn't magically solve the problem, but it can foster a different kind of resilience. It can encourage looking for solutions beyond individual austerity, perhaps seeking collective bargaining, advocating for fairer wage policies, or making strategic career choices aimed specifically at achieving a salary level that genuinely acts as a preservative, not a corrosive agent. Over the long term, it encourages thinking about financial health, not just in terms of income, but in terms of sustainability and protection against erosion. So, the next time you think about your salary, remember its origin, remember the SALT, the promise of preservation, and ask yourself, is your salary fulfilling that ancient promise? Is it helping you conserve your life, your stability, your future, or have you, like so many, found yourself in that strange, unsettling place where the very thing meant to sustain you is slowly but surely corroding you from the inside out? That ancient word salarium held a profound meaning, a direct link between work and the ability to preserve life itself. Perhaps it's time we demanded that our modern salaries live up to that original, vital purpose. So, how do we fight this corrosion? How do we reclaim that original purpose of salary as a preservative in our daily lives? It's not always about grand gestures like demanding massive raises overnight, though that has its place. Often, it starts with smaller, consistent actions, things that might seem insignificant, but build resilience over time. Think about tracking, not just your money, but where your time and energy truly go in relation to what you earn. Is the cost, in hours, stress, health, worth the preservation you're actually getting? This simple awareness can shift your perspective on the value of your current situation. Consider micro-investments in yourself. Maybe it's just 15 minutes a day, learning a specific skill online that could slightly increase your earning potential or make you more efficient. It seems small, but compounded over months, it builds capacity. It's like slowly adding reinforcing fibers against the wear and tear. Look at your expenses, not just as a budget to cut, but as potential corrosive leaks. Are there small, recurring drains that offer little real value or preservation? Identifying and plugging these isn't just saving pennies. It's stopping a slow, steady erosion of your resources. Even nurturing your professional network in small ways. A quick check-in message, sharing a relevant article, keeps connections alive. You never know when these low-effort actions might open a door to an opportunity that offers significantly better preservation power. And perhaps, most fundamentally, consciously value the non-monetary things that preserve you. Your health, your relationships, your time for rest. Protecting these, even when financial pressure is high, builds a different kind of wealth, a resilience that money alone can't provide. It helps buffer against the purely financial corrosion. These aren't magic bullets, but they are conscious steps away from passively accepting the corrosion and towards actively building preservation into your life. Little by little, it's about recognizing the subtle ways the system can wear you down and implementing equally subtle, but consistent, countermeasures. Thank you for exploring this strange connection with me. I hope it gave you something new to consider about the value of your work and what you receive for it. Before you go, take a moment to check the description below. There might be something there that could help you further. Take care.